and welcome to my channel. My name is Sarah. I am Squeaky Sketches over on Instagram. I typically do digital and traditional art, and I just recently started this YouTube for sharing art tips and tricks and figured that I would also show you some of my bullet journal setups, so that is obviously what today's video is going to be. As I'm sure you notice, there is a second notebook off to the left-hand side. That is my sermon notes notebook. I set up my bullet journal and my sermon notes with a similar color theme and layout each month, so that way they match. So if you see me going back and forth between the two notebooks, that is why. I already have the cover page for September done in my sermon notes notebook, as I'm sure you can see. So I will be using that for a reference for the colors and layout for my bullet journal. I always sketch my layouts first with pencil to make sure that the spacing is correct. So the first thing that you're going to see here is that I am going back and counting the grid spaces for the previous month's calendar just to make sure of where the center is. Personally, for me, in my notebook that I use, it is 6 squares from the sides, and then typically I put the header with the name of the month 12 from the top, so that way it is 1/3 of the way down the page. Then I quickly put on some washi tape. This washi tape is from Michaels, and I just thought that the colors and the floral patterns matched really well for this month, and that it just looked really cute with it. And then the next thing that I'm doing is I have these wooden block stamps. They are alphabet stamps from Amazon, and I just used those for the numbers this month. So I just go through, and my calendar squares are 2x2 squares, and I just try to center the numbers in the center of that 2x2 square. I do erase a little here, but I don't actually erase over the numbers yet because the ink is still wet, and if you erase right now it would smudge. So I am now working on the other side of my page, which is where I put a tasks, events, appointments kind of page, and the exact layout switches a little from month to month. So I took a second here to just kind of see what I was wanting to do with it. The light tan line is in the horizontal center, which is 19 squares from the top or bottom in my notebook. I wasn't sure what the heading for this page was going to be, but then I ended up putting it as dates to remember. And then I again used those number stamps to put the numbers of certain events that I already know that I have down on the page, and then just a small pen from Amazon. I'll put the link in the description box. But those are my pens that I typically write with, so I just wrote then what the event is with that pen. You see me flip back and forth a few times because I tend to switch up my pages every month, so I will flip back to see which ones I liked the best and what worked the best. This same page in August had been named events and appointments, and then I had 3 sections for different types of tasks. This month I decided that I'm just going to have one large section for tasks, so it will be more of a standard bullet journal. You see me pull out my planner, which is a happy planner, and I'm not going to get into that too much, but I use that as a main overview for all of my different events and tasks, so I just looked at that to see if I had any more events this month that I had forgotten about. I then flipped to my next page, which is always this same tracker. I don't really use my bullet journal the way a lot of people do, where it's a lot of task lists and kind of like a calendar to keep track of your tasks. I don't really do that as much because I found I didn't use it as much. So for me, I just use a planner for that, for having, you know, daily task lists and that sort of thing. And then in my bullet journal, I do more trackers and journaling. So what I'm doing here is I am making these trackers. The top one is numbered from 1 to 10 from bottom to top, and I use that as a little graph to track how I am feeling physically, how much sleep I have gotten, how stressed I feel, what my mood has been, and how productive I feel I've been. So it's just a little line graph, so that way I will have a color coordinated dot for each day, and then I'll just connect them later to see what the trends have been for that month. If you haven't noticed, you will learn very quickly that I love color coordinating, possibly a little too much. So everything has its own color and a meaning for a color, just because for me it's easier to keep track of things that way. I'm very visual, so having different trackers, having different colors is the easiest way for me to keep track of them. But you can absolutely do a similar thing to this just by using different shapes. You could do like one thing is a circle, and then a square, and then a triangle, and then an asterisk, or something like that. You could totally do it that way. I actually started doing a tracker similar to this because I saw something kind of like it on someone's channel. I have to see if I can remember whose channel it is. If I do, I will link the video down below. She kind of was just showing how she uses her bullet journal to track her health and wellness, which I thought was a really cool idea and a really great way to use it. So that's where I got this idea from. But anyway, then I am writing a little quote. I have been doing a terrible job of filling out my trackers the last few months. So I wrote this little quote that says, "Note to self, do things today that future you will thank you for later." Just because that's kind of been something I've been telling myself lately. If I don't really want to do something, I will be like, well, if I do it now, then in the future I won't have to do it. So that's just been my little reminder to stop procrastinating and actually get things done, because I'm gonna need to do them anyway, so I might as well do them right now so that way I won't have to do them tomorrow. Next, I am writing out various foods. This is I believe it's from the same account I was talking about earlier. She just keeps track of different foods and if she has reactions to them. I also keep track of coffee and chocolate and dairy and sugar, just because I want to try to eat less sugar and coffee and chocolate, which I'm not doing a very good job of. As you can see, I have an iced coffee up here. So definitely need to work on that, but that is what that is. It's different foods. And then I am just making a standard tracker. These are for monthly habits that I want to track. This month I am only going to do 4 because of spacing, and also, like I said, I haven't been filling them out very well, and I find that I am more likely to fill them out if I don't have like 15 of them to keep track of. So I am just making those right now, and I just draw out the simple outline of the calendar. I found that these ones work best for me, and then I'll just fill them in with a color or a dot as the days go and I complete those habits. The next thing I am doing is I am getting my Stabilo Boss highlighters out, and I have one for each social account that I am involved with. So I am just making a little color swatch and writing the initials of the account in the color swatch, and then I am going to write down what days I am hoping to post this month. And also, when I was filling out my trackers, I have AM and PM routine, my Bible reading, and then I wrote fill hearts because I have a Samsung, and so it's like an Apple Watch. You fill your rings when you do certain amounts of activity or steps and that sort of thing. So Samsung does a similar thing, but it's hearts instead. So I would like to try to be able to fill those this month and just see how many times I do it, because I definitely need to be more active than I have the last few months. So that is one thing that I want to do this month. And now I am just going back and erasing over where the pencil had been, where I had stamped earlier, because the stamps are dry enough now. Then I just flipped to what will be my first weekly. And like I was saying earlier, I use my bullet journal a little different. I use it more for trackers and for actual journaling. Since I didn't have anything in mind, I went and flipped through my previous pages of my sermon notes to see what I had used as dividers, because I don't really want to reuse the same divider too often. So then I just settled on what my design for this month is going to be, which you'll see in just a second. So in my happy planner, the days and dates are not actually on it already. They're not printed on. I stamped those on with the Archer and Olive stamp set. So I just went and compared on Wednesday the 1st which stamp I had used, which is the Archer and Olive typewriter stamp. They also have a cursive stamp. I alternated weeks between those two stamps. So Wednesday the 1st in my happy planner was the typewriter stamp, so that is what I used. I just stamped Wednesday, and then I stamped the day, which I decided to do as 01 and then 21 underneath, and then I just drew a light tan line in between Wednesday and the 01, and then I just repeated that and did the exact same thing in my bullet journal. The last thing that I did, I believe it's the last, was I just wrote a little quote down at the bottom. It says, "I can do hard things." I just used the Art Journal olive leaf stamp again and put a stamp on there. I actually use the Arteza real brush pens instead of a stamp pad to make sure I use that same red that I've used throughout my spreads, which I actually haven't used a whole lot. I tend to use a lot more color in my sermon notes than in my actual bullet journal, because for the most part the only color in my bullet journal is on the monthly spread page, and then sometimes a little on the trackers, like you saw that I put a highlight across that quote. So there's actually not very much red in there yet, but I'm going to use that as an accent color for doodles in my sermon notes, and then maybe here and there in my bullet journal as well. And yeah, that's pretty much all for today. And like I said, any of the tools and where I got them from, all of that is linked down below in the description box. And then I just gave you a quick little peek at what all I did today. So if you liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe so that way you don't miss any videos. And if you have any video ideas that you would like me to record for you, please leave a comment down below and let me know. And thank you again for watching my video. See you guys next time.